On a bitter winter night, Olivia stumbled upon Bruno, a starving 19-year-old German shepherd abandoned in a lonely rescue shelter. But what mysterious past did Bruno hold? And could Olivia overcome her own haunting grief to save him? Just when all seemed lost, a forgotten caller revealed a secret that changed everything. Stay tuned as hope blossoms from despair. Have you ever rescued an animal in need? Share your inspiring stories below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to follow Olivia and Bruno's incredible journey. The small town of Wintergrove lay quiet and somber beneath the heavy mantle of December snow. Frost clung stubbornly to windowsills and rooftops, creating a glittering landscape that masked the deeper melancholy of the frozen countryside. Wintergrove, Vermont, was quaint and picturesque, a place where each white-capped pine and quiet street seemed pulled from a storybook. Yet beneath this serene facade, the chill of loneliness seeped deep, particularly for those whose hearts bore wounds hidden beneath thick winter coats. In a modest wooden cottage at the far edge of town, Olivia Harrington stared blankly through her fogged kitchen window, her delicate fingers wrapped tightly around a porcelain mug filled with rapidly cooling coffee. At 42 years old, Olivia had once embodied the warmth and vivacity of summer itself. Her chestnut hair, naturally streaked with gold, had been the envy of many women in town, and her gentle hazel eyes often sparkled with laughter. Her slender frame carried itself with the grace and ease of someone whose happiness radiated from within, her presence always comforting to neighbors and friends alike. Yet, standing alone now, dressed in a thick woolen sweater that dwarfed her petite form, she was merely a shadow of the vibrant woman she once had been. 6 months earlier, a late-night phone call had shattered Olivia's carefully constructed life, informing her of Liam's fatal accident. Her beloved husband had lost control of his truck on the icy roads just outside Wintergrove, leaving Olivia in an emotional wilderness for which she struggled to find an exit. Since then, grief had become her closest companion, and the cheerful bustle of neighbors had dwindled to hesitant knocks and sympathetic nods. Even those brief interactions were now few and far between, leaving Olivia largely isolated in her snowbound solitude. Today, as every other day, Olivia could not muster the strength to step outside her home. She sipped her lukewarm coffee slowly, her gaze following a small finch as it hopped carefully across the snow-dusted porch railing. Memories drifted through her mind. Liam's laughter, the warmth of his hand gripping hers as they walked these same snow-covered paths together. Dreams they'd shared about starting a family that had always remained just beyond reach. Each memory felt like a ghost haunting her quiet home, echoes that faded into unbearable silence. Across Wintergrove, within the somber, concrete confines of the local animal rescue shelter, another soul grappled with abandonment and despair. Bruno, a 19-year-old German shepherd, lay curled up tightly in the back corner of his cramped kennel. His large body, once robust and powerful, was now skeletal beneath a thin layer of patchy gray and black fur. His once strong legs trembled beneath his meager weight whenever he attempted to stand, though those moments had become increasingly rare. His eyes, cloudy with age and sorrow, stared blankly toward the barred kennel door, long since losing hope that anyone would ever pass through to claim him. Bruno had been brought to the shelter months earlier by an elderly man who had simply left him there without explanation. The shelter volunteers, compassionate but overwhelmed, tried their best to encourage the old dog to eat and drink, but Bruno's spirit had broken, his appetite vanished, and now he rarely stirred. Each day was identical, marked only by the quiet murmurs of volunteers passing by, their gentle whispers pitying but powerless. At the shelter, young Emily Taylor, barely 20 and relatively new to volunteering, moved methodically through her chores. Her blonde curls were carelessly tied back into a braid that frayed at the ends, framing a cheerful face that rarely betrayed the sadness she encountered daily. Emily was bubbly and kind-hearted, eternally optimistic despite the heartbreak around her. Her blue eyes held an innate kindness that had drawn her to volunteer, hoping to bring comfort and hope to the animals under her care. Today, however, as she approached Bruno's kennel, even Emily's cheerful expression faltered. She crouched slowly, her movements gentle to avoid startling the frail animal inside. "Hey there, Bruno," she murmured softly, her voice soothing but laced with sorrow. Bruno barely moved, the only sign of awareness the slow twitch of his ear. Emily sighed softly, adjusting her oversized sweater, a gift from her grandmother and one she wore to stave off the chill of the shelter. "I wish you'd eat something today," she whispered hopefully, sliding a bowl filled with fresh food slightly closer. But Bruno remained unmoved, his expression unchanged. He had seen too many days like this one, had waited too long for someone who would never return. With resignation, Emily stood, reluctantly continuing down the hall, leaving Bruno alone once more in his silent despair. Back at Olivia's small cottage, afternoon slipped toward evening, the fading daylight filtering softly through lace curtains, casting long shadows across faded wallpaper and empty furniture. Olivia moved listlessly through her home, pausing before a framed photograph of herself and Liam on their 10th anniversary, their smiles bright, eyes full of love. Her chest tightened painfully, forcing her to look away, back out toward the frozen landscape beyond her window. Snowflakes began to drift lazily from the heavy clouds, gently blanketing Wintergrove in a fresh layer of silence. As the winter night deepened, Olivia wrapped herself in a thick blanket, her thin shoulders shaking slightly from a chill that came from within. The television flickered silently, images that failed to penetrate the numbness of her mind. She knew she needed a purpose, something, anything, to break through the oppressive stillness surrounding her, but the world outside seemed vast, intimidating, and indifferent. It was easier, perhaps, to remain isolated, safe behind her walls, even if those same walls were slowly suffocating her. Across town, beneath the same snowfall that Olivia watched through bleary eyes, Bruno drifted toward another restless sleep. His weakened body shivered beneath thin shelter blankets, the air icy and unforgiving. He stirred briefly, lifting his head as faint footsteps echoed down the shelter corridor. Perhaps someone had finally come for him. Perhaps tonight would be different. But as the footsteps faded without stopping, Bruno's head lowered again, his hope extinguished once more. Separated by mere miles, Olivia and Bruno both succumbed to their solitude, unaware that fate was quietly preparing to intertwine their paths. The snow continued to fall, softly, persistently, blanketing the town in quiet beauty, obscuring beneath its serene surface the promise of hope, renewal, and the healing power of companionship that waited silently, patiently, to be discovered. Early morning sunlight pushed tentatively through the thick, gray clouds, casting a pale glow over Wintergrove. The town, still sleeping under its pristine quilt of snow, felt frozen in an eternal quietness. Olivia Harrington awakened slowly, eyes fluttering open to find herself tangled in the worn quilt she'd shared with Liam on countless winter mornings. Her chest ached at the memory, a familiar yet bitter pang that forced her awake each morning. Rising slowly, Olivia moved through her small home as if underwater, each step careful, each motion deliberate. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror revealed tired eyes shadowed by sleepless nights, framed by chestnut hair that had lost its youthful sheen. At 42, Olivia's slender figure had grown frilier, almost fragile beneath the oversized sweaters and wool leggings she now favored. Her once bright hazel eyes appeared permanently clouded, dulled by grief. She sighed deeply, pulling a thick coat over her slender shoulders, preparing herself for the day ahead, a brief trip to deliver donations to the local animal shelter. Outside, icy wind clawed at her cheeks, turning them red as she carefully navigated the slippery sidewalk toward her old silver sedan, parked partially buried in fresh snow. Olivia placed a heavy cardboard box filled with blankets, canned dog food, and various pet supplies in her trunk, each item a reminder of the life she and Liam had envisioned, filled with love, family, and possibly a pet of their own. Liam had always wanted a dog, a shepherd or retriever, playful companions he'd described with boyish enthusiasm. But life had intervened, and now, she thought grimly, so had death. The Wintergrove Animal Rescue Shelter sat quietly on the outskirts of town, its concrete walls softened slightly by drifts of snow piled high along its sides. As Olivia stepped inside, warmth washed over her along with a faint, comforting scent of animal fur mingled with cleaning supplies. Behind a reception desk, Emily Taylor looked up and smiled warmly, recognizing Olivia instantly from brief town encounters. Emily, a 20-year-old volunteer with bright blue eyes and cheerful blonde curls, radiated youthful optimism despite the sadness often surrounding the shelter. "Mrs. Harrington, thank you so much for the donations," Emily chirped brightly. Her enthusiasm, genuine yet slightly out of place amid Olivia's melancholy, felt oddly comforting. Olivia nodded, managing a faint smile as she set the heavy box onto the counter. "It's Olivia, please. Glad to help." As Emily began sorting the items, Olivia's gaze drifted down the hallway of cages. She hadn't planned to linger, but something pulled her further inside. She walked slowly, peering gently into each cage. Puppies barked excitedly, older dogs wagged tails hopefully, but Olivia's attention settled on the cage in the furthest corner, shrouded in shadow and silence. Inside lay Bruno, the elderly German shepherd, curled up tightly in his small, bleak space. His fur was patchy, gray mixed with faded black, matted and thin from prolonged neglect. His ribs protruded starkly beneath sagging skin, a cruel map of starvation and abandonment. Olivia crouched carefully in front of the cage, her breath catching at the painful familiarity of the hopelessness she recognized in Bruno's cloudy, distant eyes. His look mirrored the emptiness she herself carried, a void carved out by loss. "How long has he been here?" Olivia asked softly, barely audible. Emily appeared quietly beside her, her normally bright expression now subdued. "Nearly 6 months. His owners left him here, said he was too old, too much trouble." Emily's voice broke slightly, betraying her own deep sadness. "No one wants an old dog." The word struck Olivia with fierce intensity. She thought about Liam, their dreams cut short, their future suddenly abandoned. Looking into Bruno's defeated eyes, something profound shifted within her. The parallels were undeniable. Both she and this old dog had been discarded by fate, abandoned to their loneliness. Without further thought, Olivia found herself speaking words she hadn't planned, a decision forming swiftly yet solidly within her heart. "I'll take him," she whispered, her voice stronger than she felt. Emily's eyes widened with surprise and relief, mixed with concern. "Really? He's quite weak, Olivia." "He might not." Olivia straightened, determination stealing her soft features. "He deserves better than dying alone in here. Whatever time he has left, it'll be with someone who understands." With Emily's help, Olivia filled out paperwork hastily, her heart racing at the spontaneous decision she'd just made. Soon after, Bruno was gently coaxed from his cage, his weak legs trembling beneath him as Olivia carefully guided him into her car. The drive home was tense and quiet, punctuated only by Bruno's shallow breathing and Olivia's anxious glances into the rearview mirror, worried about his fragile condition. At home, Bruno refused to eat. Olivia placed bowls of food before him, dry kibble, wet-canned food, even gently warmed broth, but Bruno merely stared blankly, listlessly turning away. Panic welled within Olivia as hours passed without improvement. Her own dinner sat untouched on the kitchen counter as she knelt beside Bruno, stroking his rough coat with trembling fingers. As evening darkened outside, desperation pushed her to pick up the phone, dialing a number she hadn't used in years. Henry Wilson, Wintergrove's veterinarian and a childhood acquaintance. Henry answered promptly, his voice deep and reassuring, immediately sensing her urgency. "Olivia, what's happened?" Olivia's voice shook, unsteady with barely restrained fear. I adopted Bruno, the old shepherd from the shelter. He's not eating, Henry. He looks so weak. Can you please come? Within minutes, headlights illuminated her snowy driveway, and Henry Wilson hurried up her porch steps. Tall and solidly built at 45, Henry had broad shoulders beneath his heavy coat, brown hair speckled lightly with gray, framing a gentle yet rugged face. His eyes, a deep, comforting blue, often reflected warmth and compassion that had soothed both animals and townspeople alike. Henry had always carried a soft spot for Olivia, an affection silently held since their youth, tempered respectfully by her marriage to Liam. Now, stepping quickly inside, Henry knelt beside Bruno immediately, gently examining the old dog. His touch was firm yet tender, expert yet compassionate. Bruno barely reacted, his breathing labored, eyes half closed. His condition is critical, Olivia, Henry explained softly, meeting her frightened gaze steadily. He's severely malnourished, dehydrated, likely depressed. This happens sometimes when an animal loses hope. Olivia's heart ached deeply. Eyes glistening with tears she refused to shed. Can we save him? She whispered, desperation trembling in her voice. Henry's expression softened, filled with gentle resolve. We'll do everything we can. But Olivia, his will to live is as important as medicine. He needs someone to fight for him. Olivia nodded firmly, renewed determination filling her chest. She knew she was no stranger to grief, to loss, but Bruno's fragile life now depended entirely upon her strength, her resolve. Looking down at the frail dog lying listlessly at her feet, she felt a spark of purpose ignite within her soul. A reason, finally, to fight her way back from the darkness. I'll fight, she whispered, looking at Henry steadily. We'll fight. Together. Outside, the snow continued its gentle descent, quiet flakes silently covering Wintergrove, blanketing everything in peaceful white, promising perhaps a fresh start amid the cold. Soft winter light filtered through the lace curtains of Olivia's living room, bathing the space in muted tones that softened its usual melancholy. Olivia Harrington, wrapped in a thick knitted cardigan, moved quietly around the small kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast of oatmeal and hot tea. Her chestnut hair was tied loosely into a messy bun, stray strands framing her delicate face, still shadowed by lingering grief, but now showing hints of cautious optimism. In the weeks since bringing Bruno home, her slender form had regained a subtle sense of purpose, a new resolve evident in her steady movements. She glanced over her shoulder toward the living room, where Bruno lay sleeping in front of the fireplace, his breathing slow but steady. A warmth spread in Olivia's chest, a feeling both comforting and unfamiliar. As she stirred honey into her tea, a gentle knock echoed softly at the front door, followed by the cheerful voice of Annie Wilson. Ms. Olivia? It's me, Annie. Without waiting for an invitation, the door opened slightly, and Annie's face appeared, beaming brightly beneath a colorful knit hat that clashed delightfully with her unruly curls of coppery red. Annie, 10 years old and small for her age, had a personality that seemed far too large for her petite frame. Her bright green eyes sparkled with excitement. Rosy cheeks flushed from the brisk morning air. Good morning, Annie. Olivia greeted warmly, unable to resist smiling at the child's boundless enthusiasm. Annie bounded inside, quickly discarding her snow-covered boots and jacket near the door. Beneath her thick coat, Annie wore a brightly patterned sweater with oversized sleeves that reached beyond her small hands, a gift from her grandmother. Her infectious energy quickly filled the quiet house, chasing away remnants of silence and sorrow. Is Bruno awake yet? Annie asked eagerly, eyes scanning the room until they settled on the old shepherd sleeping by the fireplace. Olivia watched with quiet amusement as Annie tiptoed closer, whispering exaggeratedly, "He's so cute when he's sleeping." Bruno stirred gently, eyes opening slowly to focus on the small girl crouched nearby. Annie reached out tentatively, offering a gentle hand. To Olivia's surprise and relief, Bruno allowed Annie's careful touch, even managing a faint wag of his tail, a sight that warmed Olivia's heart deeply. Annie's constant presence over the past few weeks had gradually chipped away at Bruno's guardedness, slowly teaching him to trust again. The front door creaked again, and Henry Wilson stepped inside, nodding apologetically toward Olivia. Henry's broad-shouldered frame filled the doorway, his familiar brown hair dusted lightly with snowflakes that melted quickly in the home's warmth. His rugged features softened into a gentle smile as he greeted Olivia, blue eyes briefly meeting hers with quiet understanding. "Morning, Olivia. Sorry to barge in so early, but Annie insisted," Henry explained, removing his heavy winter coat and draping it neatly over a chair. Olivia smiled softly. "No apology necessary. Annie's enthusiasm is always welcome." Henry chuckled warmly, shaking his head fondly. Olivia noticed the comfortable way he moved around her home, familiarity born from recent weeks spent carefully monitoring Bruno's health. Henry had become an anchor of calm, his presence steadying Olivia in moments of doubt. Annie quickly took charge, coaxing Bruno up gently to walk around the room, her voice filled with encouragement. Bruno followed slowly, his movements stiff yet stronger than they had been only days before. Olivia watched gratefully, marveling at Annie's effortless ability to connect with Bruno, providing him the youthful joy and companionship he had missed. Henry moved quietly beside Olivia, watching Annie and Bruno thoughtfully. "Annie talks about Bruno constantly," he said softly, a faint smile curving his lips. "I think she sees something special in him." Olivia nodded, eyes still fixed on the pair. "She's good for him. Good for both of us," she admitted softly, surprising herself with the honesty of her words. The admission felt right, genuine, another small step forward. They stood silently for a moment, comfortable in each other's presence. The quiet understanding between them had grown naturally, a gentle friendship emerging through shared responsibility and mutual care for Bruno. Henry's patient guidance had helped Olivia navigate her uncertainty and fears, grounding her amidst the emotional turmoil of the past months. "Have you thought about what happens next?" Henry asked carefully, breaking the comfortable silence, his gaze shifting cautiously to Olivia's. Olivia sighed softly, shaking her head slowly. "I honestly don't know. For so long, I've just existed. Bruno's changed that. He's reminded me what it feels like to care again." Henry nodded gently, eyes warm with compassion. "Grief isn't something you ever fully leave behind," he said quietly, clearly choosing his words carefully. "But maybe you can carry it differently. You don't have to do it alone." Olivia glanced up, meeting Henry's steady gaze. She felt a sudden warmth rush to her cheeks, surprised by her reaction. "I'm grateful you've been here," she said sincerely, voice soft yet firm. Henry smiled warmly, his own cheeks lightly flushing beneath the subtle scruff of his jawline. "Anytime, Olivia. You've always known that." Before she could reply, Annie's cheerful voice interrupted their quiet conversation, pulling them back into the present moment. "Look, Bruno's smiling. I think he's happy," Annie declared triumphantly. Bruno indeed seemed more relaxed, his tail wagging gently as he settled back on his bed, breathing deeply. Olivia watched him fondly, heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Annie's joy was infectious, spreading warmly throughout the small home and touching even Olivia's guarded heart. As Annie returned to the kitchen for hot chocolate, Henry quietly approached Bruno, kneeling beside him to gently examine the shepherd's health. Olivia watched silently, appreciating Henry's gentle yet practiced movements, the way he softly murmured reassuring words to Bruno. Her thoughts drifted briefly to memories she'd long buried, days spent happily alongside Liam, dreams now revived faintly by the presence of new companions in her life. Annie sipped her hot chocolate contentedly, leaning comfortably against Olivia. "Ms. Olivia, do you think Bruno remembers his family? Do dogs ever forget?" she asked softly, eyes wide with earnest curiosity. Olivia hesitated, heart twisting gently at the innocent question. I think they remember love, Annie, she replied quietly. Maybe not every detail, but love stays. Annie nodded thoughtfully, smiling softly. Then he won't ever forget us, will he? Olivia smiled gently, placing a comforting hand on Annie's small shoulder. No, he won't. As daylight faded softly into evening, Henry and Annie prepared to leave, bundling warmly against the chill outside. At the door, Annie hugged Olivia tightly, whispering softly, "See you tomorrow." Henry paused briefly, looking deeply into Olivia's eyes. "You're doing an amazing thing, Olivia. Not just for Bruno, but for yourself. Remember that." Olivia nodded, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. As they stepped into the gathering darkness, Olivia closed the door quietly, turning back toward Bruno, sleeping peacefully by the fire. She moved softly to his side, gently brushing her fingers through his coarse fur, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath her palm. The room, once empty and silent, now held warmth and life. A gentle reminder that buried beneath sorrow and loss, hope remained. The winter had grown colder, wrapping Wintergrove even tighter in its icy embrace. Olivia Harrington watched anxiously through the frosted window as another fierce snowstorm cloaked the town in relentless white. She stood in her cozy living room, clutching a steaming cup of tea in hands that trembled slightly. Olivia's face, though still delicate and gently beautiful, had become lined with worry over recent days. Dark circles shadowed her expressive hazel eyes, and the strands of chestnut hair framing her face were unkempt, evidence of many sleepless nights spent tending to Bruno. Since adopting the elderly shepherd, her life had gained newfound purpose. Yet now, fear gripped her heart again. Bruno's health, previously stabilized, had taken a sudden and alarming downturn. Across the room, Bruno lay motionless on his thick bed by the fireplace, his breathing shallow and irregular. His once bright eyes were now cloudy and distant again, his patchy fur dull, his once hopeful expression replaced by quiet resignation. Olivia had tried everything, feeding him by hand, offering warm broth, and gently coaxing him to move, but Bruno was slipping away. The cruel reality weighed heavily upon her chest, casting dark shadows across the flickering firelight. The soft chime of her doorbell startled Olivia from her anxious reverie, and she quickly moved to answer it. Standing on her porch, bundled heavily against the brutal cold, was Rachel Simmons, her next-door neighbor. Rachel was a woman in her late 50s, short and pleasantly plump, her round cheeks rosy from the biting wind. She always wore her silver-gray hair, styled neatly beneath knitted hats, and possessed a cheerful disposition, always ready to lend a helping hand. "Olivia, dear, I brought some chicken soup," Rachel said kindly, offering a steaming pot wrapped tightly in a check cloth. Her voice carried gentle warmth, immediately soothing Olivia's frayed nerves. "Thank you, Rachel. You're always so thoughtful," Olivia replied softly, her voice strained with exhaustion. Rachel's eyes softened, sensing Olivia's fragile emotional state. "How's Bruno today?" Rachel asked gently, stepping inside and setting the pot carefully on the kitchen counter. Olivia hesitated, swallowing hard, her eyes briefly filling with unshed tears. "Not good. He hasn't eaten or moved much since yesterday," Olivia admitted quietly, her gaze flickering back to Bruno's unmoving form. Rachel squeezed Olivia's shoulder sympathetically. "Henry's coming soon, isn't he?" Olivia nodded slowly, the mention of Henry causing a complex mix of relief and apprehension within her. Over recent weeks, Henry Wilson had become a steadfast presence in her life, his visits frequent and comforting. She knew his feelings extended beyond mere friendship. His gentle touches lingered slightly longer, his voice softened more tenderly. But fear still held her heart captive, unsure if she could ever truly move past Liam's memory. Just as Rachel prepared to leave, the front door opened again, and Henry stepped quickly inside, shaking snow from his coat. Henry's solid frame seemed to bring stability wherever he went, his presence calming the restless anxiety within Olivia. His brown hair, lightly dusted with snow, framed his earnest face, which always wore a reassuring smile, even amid hardship. His blue eyes immediately sought Olivia's, conveying both warmth and quiet strength. "I came as soon as I could," Henry said gently, hanging up his coat. His gaze shifted immediately to Bruno, and his expression tightened slightly, concern evident. Kneeling beside the shepherd, Henry carefully checked Bruno's pulse, murmuring softly and reassuringly. Olivia watched anxiously from the kitchen, heart pounding painfully. She'd come to rely heavily upon Henry's quiet strength and wisdom, his presence easing the weight of her loneliness. Yet now, as Bruno's condition deteriorated, another fear crept in, a fear of losing yet another piece of her heart. Henry finally stood, approaching Olivia quietly, his voice low and compassionate. "We're at a crossroads, Olivia. Bruno's body is failing rapidly. I can make him comfortable, or—" Henry's voice trailed off delicately, allowing Olivia space to process the difficult words he hadn't needed to finish. Olivia closed her eyes, fighting tears. Her shoulders shook softly as she whispered brokenly, "I don't want him to suffer, Henry, but I don't know if I can let him go yet." Henry moved closer, gently placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Olivia, Bruno found hope here because of you. His last days, whether short or long, have been full of love and care. Whatever you decide, I'll be here beside you." Olivia opened her eyes, meeting his steady gaze. In that moment, something profound shifted within her, softening the barrier she'd built around her heart. Henry's unwavering support was undeniable, his patience and kindness slowly healing wounds Olivia had believed permanent. A soft knock at the door broke the intense silence, and Annie Wilson burst in moments later, her face anxious beneath her knitted hat, strands of red curls escaping in disarray. "Ms. Olivia, Uncle Henry, is Bruno okay?" Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her usually cheerful bravado. Henry moved swiftly to reassure her, gently squeezing Annie's shoulder. "He's resting now, Annie. Let's keep him comfortable and loved." Annie nodded bravely, quickly kneeling beside Bruno, gently stroking his fur and whispering quiet encouragements. Her small hands, usually energetic, now carefully traced the old dog's fur with delicate tenderness, reflecting wisdom beyond her 10 years. Olivia watched Annie quietly, her chest aching with love and sadness. She saw clearly how deeply Bruno had touched their lives, connecting hearts previously divided by pain and loss. Olivia knelt beside Annie, placing a gentle arm around her shoulder, whispering softly, "He knows we love him, Annie. That's what matters." Evening came swiftly, the snowstorm intensifying outside, darkness falling heavily upon Wintergrove. Bruno's breathing slowed further, each breath more labored than the last. Henry administered gentle medication, easing Bruno's discomfort while Olivia, Annie, and Rachel remained at his side, their quiet vigil a testament to their profound bond. Later that night, after Annie reluctantly departed with Rachel, Henry lingered beside Olivia, the two sitting quietly beside Bruno. Olivia's heart ached fiercely, torn between wanting Bruno to remain and understanding the compassion needed to let him rest. "Henry," Olivia began softly, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't want Bruno to suffer because I'm afraid to lose him, but I can't bear the thought of another goodbye." Henry squeezed her hand gently, his voice comforting and steady. "Love often comes with grief, Olivia, but it's always worth it." She turned to face him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Is it really? After losing Liam, losing Bruno might break me." Henry's blue eyes gazed deeply into hers, filled with sincerity. "You're stronger than you realize, Olivia. You opened your heart again, first to Bruno and now, I hope, to me. You're not alone. Never again." Olivia felt tears spill silently down her cheeks, overwhelmed by Henry's sincerity and gentle strength. His words sank deeply into her heart, slowly dissolving lingering doubts and fears. She leaned gently against him, finally allowing herself the comfort and safety his embrace offered. As they sat quietly, Bruno stirred slightly, his breathing softer yet steadier. Olivia felt a strange sense of peace, understanding clearly what she must do. Bruno deserved dignity, love, and peace, even if it meant a painful goodbye. In the quiet warmth of her living room, Olivia found strength not only to face Bruno's imminent farewell, but also to embrace the love patiently waiting beside her. Outside, the snowstorm slowly quieted, leaving Wintergrove blanketed in serene silence. A gentle reminder that even after darkness, hope could bloom again. Deep into the night, Wintergrove remained cocooned in a silence broken only by occasional gusts of wind rattling icy branches against Olivia Harrington's windowpane. Inside her small home, a single lamp cast a warm yet solemn glow across the quiet living room. Olivia sat curled in the armchair near Bruno's bed, her slender frame drawn tightly beneath a thick woolen shawl. Dark rings of exhaustion shadowed her expressive hazel eyes, evidence of the sleepless nights she'd endured. Her chestnut hair, usually neatly tied back, fell loosely around her face, unkempt from days of constant vigilance. Despite her fatigue, determination flickered strongly within her, the resolve in her eyes unmistakable even in their weary depths. Beside her, Bruno's breaths came slow and shallow, each one an effort that resonated deeply in Olivia's aching heart. The elderly German shepherd lay motionless, his body frail beneath thinning fur, eyes half closed in quiet resignation. Olivia's heart clenched painfully, memories of their brief yet profound connection overwhelming her with grief and gratitude alike. She knew the choice ahead was daunting, yet the comfort of Henry Wilson's steady presence, now deeply intertwined with her life, had become her anchor amid the storm. Henry moved softly around the kitchen, making tea in quiet efficiency, his tall, sturdy figure illuminated faintly by the dim kitchen light. The vet's normally tidy appearance was now slightly rumpled from the hours spent at Olivia's side, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms accustomed to both strength and tenderness. His deep blue eyes held gentle concern, frequently glancing toward Olivia to ensure she was managing, both physically and emotionally. His presence had transformed from professional obligation to something far deeper, one filled with quiet devotion. Lost in contemplation, Olivia's attention drifted to an old wooden chest near the fireplace, a place she rarely visited, full of memories she'd tried to bury alongside Liam. She found herself drawn toward it, compelled by a sense she couldn't quite name. Kneeling carefully, Olivia opened the chest, sifting gently through old mementos, photographs, letters, trinkets from happier times. Near the bottom, her fingers brushed something smooth and metallic. Carefully lifting it, she held the object in the lamplight, feeling her breath catch softly. It was a worn leather collar, its edges frayed with age and use. The metal tag dangling from it gleamed faintly, and as she turned it gently, engraved words appeared in soft relief. Bruno, loyal friend forever. Olivia's heart skipped painfully. She turned toward Bruno, disbelief mingling with awe as realization struck. Bruno hadn't been just any dog. He had once been Wintergrove's esteemed rescue dog, a hero whose strength had saved lives, whose courage had inspired an entire community. Olivia's throat tightened with new resolve. Bruno deserved far more than surrender. She refused to let his legacy end in defeat. With trembling hands, she moved swiftly to Bruno's side, gently fastening the old collar around his neck. Henry, noticing Olivia's urgency, stepped closer, concern evident. "What's wrong, Olivia?" he asked quietly, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Look at this," Olivia whispered, voice thick with emotion, showing Henry the engraved collar. Understanding flickered across Henry's face, his expression softening profoundly. "Bruno was our town's rescue dog," Henry said reverently, shaking his head slowly in quiet amazement. "How could we have forgotten?" Olivia gently stroked Bruno's fur, fresh determination flooding her heart. "We can't give up, Henry. Bruno deserves every chance." Henry nodded solemnly, gripping Olivia's hand reassuringly. "Then we'll fight together, Olivia." Every step. Morning came swiftly, a weak sunlight piercing through lingering clouds, casting gentle illumination over Wintergrove. Annie Wilson arrived early, eager face flushed with cold, vivid green eyes shining with hopeful optimism beneath her untamed copper curls. Her enthusiasm never failed to breathe warmth into Olivia's home, a balm for weary hearts. Annie knelt beside Bruno, her small fingers brushing gently across his fur, whispering tender encouragements. "Come on, Bruno, you're our hero," she urged softly, unaware of the profound impact her simple faith had on Olivia's resolve. Days turned slowly, each marked by tireless dedication from Olivia, Henry, and Annie. Olivia learned intricate details of Bruno's previous life, stories recounted by townsfolk who'd heard of Bruno's rediscovered legacy. Visitors came quietly, paying respects to the once-forgotten hero who had returned quietly home. Rachel Simmons, Olivia's compassionate neighbor, visited frequently, bringing warm meals and steadfast encouragement. Bruno's recovery was painstakingly slow, marked by fragile improvements, brief tail wags, gentle nudges against Olivia's hand. Henry closely monitored Bruno's health, providing gentle reassurance and professional care. Olivia found herself increasingly drawn to Henry's quiet steadiness, his unwavering patience, kindness, and strength comforting her more deeply with each passing day. One quiet evening, as twilight shadows stretched long across Wintergrove, Olivia and Henry sat together beside the fireplace, watching Bruno sleep more peacefully than he had in weeks. Henry turned thoughtfully toward Olivia, his voice gentle yet firm. "You've shown incredible strength through this, Olivia. Liam would be proud." Olivia's heart tightened briefly at the mention of Liam, yet she felt no bitterness, only quiet gratitude for the memories they'd shared, and newfound peace about embracing the possibility of happiness once more. "I'm finally learning it's okay to live again," she replied softly, a gentle smile touching her lips. "Thanks to Bruno and you." Henry's eyes met hers, deep with sincerity and warmth. "You don't have to thank me, Olivia. You deserve happiness, companionship. It's been an honor to walk this road beside you." Olivia reached tentatively, placing her hand gently over Henry's, feeling warmth spread within her chest. Silence settled comfortably around them, deepened by understanding and mutual affection that required no words. Annie, arriving later, found them sitting closely, a sight that widened her eyes with delighted surprise. Without a word, she hurried to Bruno's side, her cheerful chatter filling the comfortable silence, weaving seamlessly into the peaceful fabric of their newfound family. As days turned into weeks, Bruno's strength slowly returned. Olivia, Henry, and Annie celebrated every small victory, steps taken without assistance, hearty meals finished eagerly, brief walks outside beneath pale winter sunlight. Bruno's renewed energy filled Olivia's home with warmth and joy, lightening spirits long burdened by sorrow. One clear morning, Olivia stood in her doorway, watching Bruno trot carefully through fresh snow, Annie giggling happily at his side. Henry appeared quietly beside her, gently clasping her hand. "He's a miracle," Henry murmured fondly, his voice filled with genuine awe. Olivia smiled softly, leaning gently against him, finally allowing herself the comfort of his embrace without hesitation. "We all are," she whispered gratefully. "He taught us all how to hope again." As snow fell softly once more over Wintergrove, Olivia felt profoundly at peace. In Bruno's courage and resilience, she discovered strength within herself, strength to embrace love, hope, and joy once again. Beside her stood Henry, patient, steadfast, and devoted, holding her heart gently yet securely. In Annie's laughter, she heard echoes of renewal, innocent joy reclaiming a space once overtaken by grief. Bruno glanced back briefly, his eyes bright, coat shimmering gently beneath falling snowflakes. His old collar gleamed softly, its engraved words clear, reflecting Olivia's newfound certainty. Love endured, loyalty remained eternal, and hope, like gentle snowfall, could softly blanket even the deepest sorrows in tender peace. Winter's tight grasp on Wintergrove slowly loosened its hold as early signs of spring emerged timidly from beneath the lingering snow. Patches of green grass peeked out tentatively, basking in the pale sunlight that began to warm the town gently. Within Olivia Harrington's modest home, a similar transformation had quietly taken place. Weeks of patient care, tireless dedication, and unwavering love had yielded an extraordinary miracle. Bruno, once frail and hopelessly resigned, was now beginning to regain his strength. Olivia stood in the kitchen, watching Bruno through the back door, with tearful eyes filled with cautious joy. Her slender form appeared healthier now, illuminated by newfound purpose. Her chestnut hair was neatly pulled back, accentuating her expressive hazel eyes that sparkled again with life and possibility. Gone was the shadow of sorrow that once consumed her, replaced by gratitude and determination. Beside her stood Henry Wilson, his comforting presence a steady pillar in her life. Henry, always calm and gentle, wore a warm smile, his deep blue eyes following Bruno's careful movements. His broad frame, covered in a familiar flannel shirt and worn jeans, exuded quiet strength. Their hands brushed briefly, fingers intertwining naturally, a gesture of newfound intimacy and trust. Outside, Bruno carefully stepped through the melting snow, testing each paw cautiously as Annie Wilson cheered him on enthusiastically. Annie's boundless energy remained an unwavering source of encouragement. Her copper curls bounced with excitement beneath her knitted beanie as she clapped her mittened hands. Annie's bright green eyes danced with delight at Bruno's progress. Her optimism had been instrumental in Bruno's recovery, and her joyful presence had eased Olivia into accepting happiness again. "Look at him go!" Annie shouted gleefully, her voice echoing through the crisp air. Bruno paused momentarily, glancing back at Olivia and Henry, his tail wagging slightly in acknowledgement. His fur, now thicker and healthier after weeks of nutritious food and gentle grooming, shone softly in the sunlight. His cloudy eyes had regained brightness, reflecting both strength and contentment. Olivia wiped away tears of relief, turning to Henry with gratitude clear in her eyes. "I didn't think we'd ever get here," she admitted softly. Henry smiled warmly, gently squeezing her hand. "He's resilient, just like you. I never doubted either of you." Olivia smiled warmly, leaning closer to him, allowing herself to enjoy the newfound comfort in his proximity. The uncertainty that had once dominated her thoughts was fading steadily, replaced by cautious optimism about their shared future. As Bruno and Annie continued playing outside, a gentle knock on the door drew Olivia's attention. Opening it revealed Rachel Simmons, her ever-cheerful neighbor, standing proudly with another steaming dish in hand. Rachel's gray hair was neatly styled beneath her knitted cap, rosy cheeks radiating warmth and joy. "I heard Bruno's feeling better," she announced cheerfully, stepping inside. "I baked a shepherd's pie to celebrate." Olivia laughed softly, touched by Rachel's consistent generosity. "Thank you, Rachel. You've been such a big part of this journey." Rachel waved her hand modestly, placing the dish on the counter. "Nonsense, dear. Bruno inspired all of us." He reminded everyone in Wintergrove that hope is always possible. The idea resonated deeply within Olivia, sparking a newfound determination. Turning to Henry thoughtfully, she spoke with gentle conviction. "We should share Bruno's story, Henry, not just with friends and neighbors, but everyone in Wintergrove. He deserves recognition, and maybe he could inspire others like he inspired us." Henry's eyes softened, recognizing the earnest passion in Olivia's voice. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Olivia. Bruno's legacy deserves it." Their discussion quickly turned into action, and soon preparations began for a charity event supporting Wintergrove's animal rescue shelter. Olivia reached out to the community, energized by the growing interest from residents inspired by Bruno's miraculous recovery. Rachel eagerly volunteered to help organize food and decorations, while Annie enthusiastically created colorful posters featuring Bruno's gentle face. News spread quickly, drawing widespread interest from local businesses and residents alike. The evening of the charity event arrived swiftly, the community hall beautifully adorned with twinkling lights and photographs capturing Bruno's inspiring journey. Olivia stood at the entrance, greeting guests warmly, her confidence steadily returning. Henry remained steadfastly at her side, radiating quiet pride and unwavering support. Bruno lay comfortably near them, relaxed and content, wearing his restored collar with quiet dignity. The hall quickly filled with Wintergrove's residents, among them David Carter, the town mayor, a tall, distinguished man in his early 60s with silver hair and a warm, approachable manner. Mayor Carter's sincere speech commended Bruno's resilience and Olivia's unwavering dedication, emphasizing how their story embodied Wintergrove's true spirit. Olivia felt a surge of emotion as she realized just how deeply Bruno's journey had touched her community. As the evening progressed, Olivia found herself approached by Margaret Lawson, a retired schoolteacher beloved throughout Wintergrove. Margaret, petite with soft white curls framing a kind, wrinkled face, gently took Olivia's hands into hers. "Dear, your Bruno reminded us all what love and patience can achieve. And you've reminded us that life goes on, even after loss," she said tenderly. Margaret's words resonated profoundly, reinforcing Olivia's decision to openly embrace the next chapter of her life with courage and gratitude. Near the event's conclusion, Olivia stepped forward, facing the gathered crowd with newfound confidence. Her voice, steady yet deeply heartfelt, shared the profound lessons Bruno had taught her about hope, resilience, and the strength found in community. As applause filled the hall, Olivia's gaze found Henry's. In that moment, she understood completely that the love and support surrounding her now were gifts she was finally ready to embrace fully. The charity event raised significant funds for the animal shelter, but more importantly, it had strengthened the bonds within the Wintergrove community. Bruno had reminded them all that hope could flourish even amidst the harshest conditions. Later that night, as Olivia, Henry, and Annie walked slowly homeward beneath a clear, star-studded sky, Bruno walked beside them steadily, his gentle strength evident in each careful step. Annie's chatter provided cheerful background noise, her youthful exuberance a constant source of joy. Pausing briefly, Olivia glanced upward, breathing deeply as peace filled her heart. Henry watched her silently, his quiet understanding apparent. "I never imagined we'd end up here," Olivia admitted softly, looking fondly between Bruno and Henry. "But I'm so grateful we did." Henry gently wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Me too, Olivia. Every step, every moment was worth it." They stood quietly beneath the stars, feeling deeply connected through shared hardships and newfound happiness. Bruno nudged Olivia's hand gently, his calm presence reassuringly steady. Olivia smiled softly, finally understanding that revival was not simply recovery from loss. It was embracing the beauty, joy, and love that arose anew from its ashes. As Wintergrove's gentle snowfall returned once more, Olivia knew her heart was finally open again, filled not with pain, but with hope and gratitude. Beside her stood Henry, steady and kind, and at her feet stood Bruno, loyal friend forever, their shared journey an inspiring testament to resilience, courage, and the transformative power of unconditional love. In the end, the story of Olivia and Bruno teaches us something truly beautiful. No matter how deep the darkness, hope can always find its way back into our lives if we have courage, patience, and love. Just as Bruno regained strength through kindness and care, we too can heal and rediscover joy when we open our hearts to others. Have you ever experienced a moment when kindness changed everything for you or someone you know? Share your story with us in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share to help spread a message of hope to others. May God bless you all, guide your steps, and fill your days with peace and joy. If you feel this blessing, comment Amen below and join us in bringing more stories of love and compassion into the world.